You mentioned meditation earlier. What are your thoughts about the spiritual contemplative traditions and have they aided in the search at all?
So there's, I'm saying that space-time isn't fundamental, and that right now I'm thinking about a scientific theory in which consciousness is fundamental. And there are many spiritual traditions that will say, well, you're late to the party. We've been saying this kind of thing for thousands of years. Buddhism, Hinduism, mystical Christianity, mystical Islam, mystical Judaism. I mean, there and probably many others that I don't know about. So there's the mystical traditions in all these various directions have been saying similar things. And so I think that my attitude is I want to listen to what they have to say in the same way that I listen to my colleagues in the sciences, which is with respect and healthy skepticism, right? Both. That's just so. So I think that they have some really important insights that I want to learn from, and I suspect, just like in science, we make mistakes. I expect that some of their ideas in certain ways of putting up things are not helpful, and they may be misguided. So I want to learn from them, and I think what ultimately I want is an interaction between science and spirituality. I think that they have two pieces of the puzzle, and a collaboration could be useful because scientists have developed the tools of mathematical precision in theories and precise experimental tests of those theories. And that really is important because two things. Your theories are smarter than you. In science, when Einstein wrote down his field equations for general relativity, he didn't know about black holes. He didn't believe in black holes. His equations taught him that there are black holes. Now, when you just do things in English or whatever your language is, it's very rare sometimes, but it's very rare that you're going to get that kind of tutoring from what you wrote down. I mean, again, think about what tutoring that Einstein got. Black holes, that's pretty specific learning that you're getting from your theory. I mean, Einstein started off with people in falling elevators and standing on weights, and the mathematics comes back and says, by the way, your thought experiments mean that there are black holes. Holy smoke. I mean, so when you do these mathematically precise theories, you get this incredible payoff that you become the student of your theory, and the theory takes you places that your own ideas need to go, but you didn't know it. But second, the scientific theories also tell you the limits. They say this theory is good up to this point, and then it fails. And that's what we don't. So we don't have those two things in the spiritual traditions. We don't have the precision that will come back and slap you in the face and say, here's, where your own theory tutors you. And we don't have this antidote to dogmatism. I mean, scientists are people, so scientists are just as dogmatic as anybody. But when your theories come back and someone else, maybe I won't use my own theory to show I'm wrong, but my friend will. My scientific colleagues will be happy to use my theories to show me the limits of my ideas. So that's the antidote to dogmatism, And so what I would love that in the spiritual traditions as well. So the spiritual traditions they talk about having what they say be thought of as pointers, not the truth. The Tao Te Ching starts off by saying the Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. Absolutely right. But then you have to go on and speak, and then the rest of the book carries on after that. So you have pointers, but now you know that the pointers all have limits. Well, okay, what are the limits of this pointer? How far should I take it seriously, and when should I let go? And you don't get that with just language, typically. You do get that with mathematical precision. So the mathematical precision would be very, very helpful. But second, often spirituality, as we have seen many times, degenerates into religiosity, and people will kill each other because your pointers are different from mine. I think Jesus is the way, and you say Buddha is the way, and so we're going to fight and kill and so forth. And so having clear pointers that can teach you, but then also having pointers that show you their own limits, so that the dogmatism doesn't come up, and we don't end up killing each other because I believe this pointer and you don't believe this pointer. Well, if the pointer itself said, don't believe me beyond this point, then we wouldn't have to fight over it, because the pointer itself would be saying, don't do this, don't do this. This pointer only goes this far. So that's, I think that would be a wonderful way to stop the fights and have a more profitable collaboration. So I see science and spirituality really being able to help each other. But of course, there's a bad history since Galileo, at least. The church, the Catholic Church at the time, put him under house arrest, threatened him with physical harm, because he disbelieved things that the church believed that have turned out to be patently false. The church believed things that were patently false. So as a result, scientists have said, if that's what religion is, then no, thank you. And so we need to now move beyond and go to the place where we can have a profitable dialogue. And it's going to require both sides to make compromises in the sense that, on the religious side, there may be pointers that you're deeply attached to that may turn out to be extremely shallow pointers. They're not that deep, and you really need some deeper pointers. And on the science side, well, for scientists, letting go of space-time, hey, that's a new trick. It's not a very comfortable trick, and most scientists, most of my colleagues in neuroscience, are not happy with it. So there's something on the scientists have some big adjustments as well. So, but I'm sanguine. I think that my generation probably won't get it, but the younger generation will start to get it. My generation just has to die, but the new generation will begin to forge these new links between the good parts of science and the good parts of spirituality. And I think it'll be for the benefit of all humanity.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, like the political problems, I don't think are trivial. They seem very
Right.
difficult to overcome. Yeah, just historical contingencies, bad blood. Yeah, and I mean, somehow there's somewhat a principal reason for them as well, right? Like, I think at least in my recent and very very limited practice of spiritual practices, there really is a personal emphasis on it. Like, I can gain a lot of it. I can gain a lot from just personally sitting and reflecting every day, or just meditating in silence.
Yes.
But I have no idea how to scale that to a social relationship, or a political citizenship, or my role as an economic actor. I have no idea how to link those things together. And in some senses, if you're forming movements, those questions are important. They need to be dealt with.
Yes. No, I agree. I think that, of course, it starts with the individual, as you are doing, and in some sense, unless you yourself are centered, unless you are in some sense have let go of ego and let go of identification with your physical form and your status in the world and your need to compete and be important, and to the extent that and you have to be right and everybody else has to be wrong. It's only to the extent that I have begun to let go of that I can be a positive influence. Otherwise, everything I do organizationally to try to get people to, can we all get along? If I haven't let go of my own ego, then I'm tainted at the source, and everything I do will be tainted all the way through. So there's I think no substitute for individuals letting go and doing what you're talking about, which is meditating and letting go of the egoic need to be right and you wrong and all the stuff that leads to the wonderful theory of evolutionary psychology, right? Evolutionary psychology wonderfully documents all of our problems here, and all the strategies that we use to one up each other and so forth. So evolutionary psychology is the correct scientific theory of the false self, as the spiritual traditions call it. That it is, but I think the spiritual traditions are right that there is the false self is just an illusion that we've bought into, and as we let go of the illusion, then we can be guides or helps or whatever to others to let go of the illusion. And I think ultimately that's one of the things I'm hoping for in this rapprochement between science and spirituality, is that it will facilitate this, that it will become scientifically clear that the false self is a false self. It'll become clear that, evolutionary psychology correctly describes how we will behave and feel when we're identified with the false self. But there is a deeper psychology that transcends that. And that is, as human beings and as scientists, it is in our best interest to go there. For example, for me as a scientist, all of my scientific theories, all scientific theories are conceptual, right? We write down mathematics, we write down words, they're all conceptual. But we know from Gödel's incompleteness theorem that any formal theory leaves out countless truths. Gödel proved you have this really fancy mathematical theory. He can always show you a statement that's true but can't be proven within your theory. And if you add that statement to your theory, then he'll show you a new statement that's true and can't be proven. And so that's pointing to an unbounded intelligence beyond any conceptual intelligence that we have, beyond any and that's us. I think the spiritual traditions are right on this. The mathematical work that I'm doing on consciousness seems to point in that direction, that there is this one consciousness. We're not divorced from it. You and I are it, and we are projections of that one consciousness. And so in meditation, when you actually go into silence and you really let go of your conceptions, you are actually opening up to this infinite intelligence that's really you. And that infinite intelligence has all possibility for opening up new fields of science, as well as new fields of cooperation, politically, emotionally, spiritually. So as we learn from science itself, and like Gödel's incompleteness theorem, that stepping out of our theories and stepping into utter silence is actually not stupid. It's actually what our best science suggests is the right way to proceed. If we want to have the deepest ideas and the deepest contact with other people who are just the same as me, the one consciousness under a different avatar. So in other words, as science and spirituality really integrate, spirituality will lose many of the wrong bells and whistles that it has, but the deep insights will still be there, and science will grab onto those. And I think it will lead us to realize that, yes, we need, when we're doing linguistic or conceptual things, we want absolute precision. No messing around. We want falsifiable theories, no BS. But then, if you want deep intelligence, let go of all of your theories. Go into absolute silence. And that's also where you'll get in deepest touch on a human level with other people and see them for who they are, which is just the one consciousness under a different guise. And so I see this rapprochement as a healing, like you mentioned politics, right, where our politics is polarized right now in many places in the world. And again, in many cases, because my pointers are different from yours, and you don't believe my religious pointers and so forth. so the stuff we're talking about is not just theoretical. It cuts on politics today. So I see a rapprochement and a real moving forward where we will learn to, as Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself. And you really see that not just as some platitude that some guy said 2,000 years ago. You see it as the deepest insight that's compatible with our best science. There is just the one consciousness, and to love your neighbor as yourself is really to love yourself. And when you do that, when you really take that to heart, then you're much less likely to, be ragging on your neighbor because of differences in politics, or killing your neighbor because of differences in religion. So,
Do you think that in some sense this process will have to be conscious, like that we consciously have to bridge that gap? Because I mean, we can understand why you'd go the other way, right? Evolutionary dynamics, market dynamics, political theory tell us that if you do science with cutthroat brutal competition and just let competition take over, you'll probably produce a whole lot of data and a whole lot of success. But yeah, so is it you really have to go out of your way, and it's a great act of labor to step outside of that.
yeah, I would agree. Just on the evolutionary psychology stuff, I agree with what you said there too. Communism sounds great from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. Wonderful. It doesn't work. And capitalism does work, which is nature red in tooth and claw. We're competing, fighting, and so forth. Well, so capitalism works because we're all tied to our false self. If we let go of ourselves, then communism would work. But the communism doesn't work, not because it shouldn't work, but I mean, it should work. But we're all tied to our false selves, and so we're all competing. Um, so so, but you're right that this requires a conscious step. It's really consciousness waking up, right? We're asleep in a dream in which I dream that I am this body. I dream that I am just my neurons. I'm nothing but neural activity. All my conscious experience are. We're dreaming all this stuff, and then I'm constantly in my thoughts and fighting with people mentally or verbally or whatever, because the ego is always competing and so forth. I'm competing with other scientists, competing with, it's always is competitive, because I'm trying to define myself as better than you, or different, or I'm defining myself as worse off than you. Whatever, I'm trying to define myself. When I realize it takes a conscious step, as you said, to let go of that and to wake up and realize there's no reason to compete. When I'm competing with Ashar, I'm actually fighting myself. That is myself. So it is a step of consciousness, and it really is only when you're conscious that you're able to do it. This is when you go unconscious that you then just fall back into the default evolutionary psychology mode, and then we need, of course, to use capitalism and the free enterprise system to make things work when everybody's saddled with the false self.